we're close to crunch time, right? Final picks. You got to make your final picks. Biggest fight, MMA history, Khabib and Conor. Who are you going to take? And I'll tell you this, I do not buy all of the narratives out there. And I find that we're very quick to jump on them. And you can just kind of rinse and repeat and throw two new guys out there, and then you have the same narrative, right? Who's got the reach advantage? Or, well, if Conor can keep it standing, well, if Khabib can get it to the ground, and somehow, no matter how many fights go on, no matter how many weeks and months and years go by, decades of being fight fans, we just keep turning to that same argument, and it's a little bit boring, and it's a little bit dull, and it's certainly unsophisticated analysis. Has Conor proven on his feet that he's a better fighter than Khabib? You make that decision. If the answer is yes, okay, fine. The narrative, though, as though Khabib has ever been stuck on his feet and been beaten up, is simply false. A little of that came out in the Ally Aquina fight, and I didn't agree with it. Khabib was landing shots, he was using footwork, the head motion wasn't necessarily great, but he was still winning moments of the fight, stuck in the range where people said he doesn't want to be. The other side of it is with Conor and his wrestling. You know, I don't know how to say this any clearer, but wrestling, and I say this to you as a wrestler, wrestling is one aspect that can take a fight from here to here, but the second you hit the ground, you're no longer wrestling. I can just share that with you, whether you're talking about Olympic wrestling or you're talking NCAA wrestling. That is no longer wrestling. That is not where we want to be. That is not where we spend our time in the practice rooms and at the training centers and trying to compete at. That's now a different sport known as grappling. If you start adding strikes, it's a sport known as mixed martial arts. Conor has shown an ability to get up off the bottom. Go see the Chad Mendes fight. So it changes. It just changes a little bit. I don't know that either of those narratives is completely true. Just because the fight is on the feet, I guess here's the final analysis I'm making for you. Just because the fight on the feet is on the feet does not mean that Conor is winning. Understand that when you're watching the fight. Understand he must take one of these in a forward direction and put it on Khabib's body, okay? If the fight goes to the ground, that does not necessarily mean that Khabib is winning. I think both of these guys would like to keep it in their realms, but us as fans can't just jump to the conclusion that should they succeed with their goal, they're automatically winning. The other part of it that I don't buy into is the narrative about Conor and his conditioning issues. I will concede to the narrative that Khabib has fantastic conditioning. I'm just not quite ready to admit that Conor does not. I haven't seen that. And I know some of you think that you have, between the Floyd Mayweather fight where he said he was tired. Look, that's a different sport. It's a different sport entirely. Or if you were to look at the first Nate Diaz fight where Conor came out and said, I was tired. But it was two weight classes different. So it's a different environment. I just don't know if I'm buying that. Let's see what happens here in this fight. But let's make sure that we're real fair to go into it with an open mind. Because as we as fans, okay, my overarching premise to you guys is this. If we as fans are not willing to accept just because the fight is on the feet does not mean Conor's winning, and just because the fight is on the ground does not automatically mean that Khabib is winning. If we're not willing to accept that, how can you expect the judges to? We cannot let this go into the hands of the judges with them coming in with a preconceived notion that if more minutes of this contest was on the feet, well, then I guess Conor must have won. And if more minutes of this was on the ground, then I guess Khabib must have won. Go into it open, go in there excited, go in there remembering the same narrative was said about Stipe and Cormier. Cormier was going to have to out-wrestle him, Stipe was going to have to outstrike him. That wasn't that long ago. And get ready to enjoy the fight. And I'll tell you this too. I really appreciate Conor making statements such as if Khabib doesn't make weight. First off, I think that fight goes on anyway, but he has gone a step further as to say, if for some reason Khabib does not show up, I will fight either Ferguson or Pettis. For some guys, that would be tough guy talk. For us as viewers, that's a relief that we're not going to have to deal with that drama. The show is going to go on. But ultimately, if you look at Conor's history, if you look at the Chad Mendes switch up at the last minute, he's a man of his word. If he says he's going to fight on October 6th, he's going to fight on October 6th.